As a way to best prepare the body for this upcoming workout, what I want to do is run you through some basic drills to help loosen up full body, flexibility, mobility, increase tissue temperature and heart rate. From there, go into some basic locomotion drills in place, and we'll follow that up with some low-level plyometrics to really set the stage for the upcoming workout. So what you're going to do in this first series here, just to loosen up full body, a very simple dynamic warm-up to address hips, shoulders, spine, to prepare for the activity ahead. So going through about 10 times per side, we're just going to do a comfortable leg swing forward and backward. Always like to recommend on this one, not allowing the toe to turn out. We don't want a lot of motion around the spine. So really trying to isolate the hip joint, anywhere from 10 to 15 repetitions per side. Okay, so engaging the core, keeping the back up nice and tall, just loosening up through hip flexor, glute, hamstring, but setting the stage with this warm-up. Next one, holding on here a little bit more securely since balance is tricky. We're gonna face forward here to this wall. I'm gonna come across and then open up to the side. So now looking at hip adductors, abductors, that glute, piriformis muscles throughout the hip, and a little bit through the lower back as I come through and rotate. Same thing, about 10 to 15 reps. You're gonna kind of choose how much you need here depending on your level of flexibility and your specific needs. But we're just starting this dynamic warm-up process here, going through about 10 to 15 repetitions. Once we finish there, we're gonna move a little bit higher up now through the spine, specifically thoracic spine. So in this drill, trunk rotation, feet about hip width or slightly wider, turn, rotate through the shoulders, look the direction my shoulders are turning to, and just rotating side to side. Nice tall position. Back foot's gonna come up and pivot on the floor just so we're releasing some of that pressure from the lower back. About 10 to 15 rotations per side. Okay. Next, moving up to the shoulders, there is some upper body strengthening we'll add into this program today. So making sure we do a good job opening up, and especially from a postural standpoint as it relates to running, we need to really emphasize shoulders. So from here, simple arm swing, forward and backward. Full range of motion, flexion into extension, opening up the shoulders. Key thing to stay away from, overly arching or changing your body position. Really lock in through the core. So you're squeezing the abs, pulling that rib cage down. And then going through your full but comfortable range of motion, not forcing anything. Okay? From there, what we're gonna do is a simple alternating arm swing. Opposite arm, motion, moving at the same time. Loosening up through the shoulders. Okay, once we finish that and we really started to prep the body, get focused on what's ahead, we're going to go into a few basic locomotion drills here. So to get us started, in-place marching, something I think a lot of runners neglect as they get into their warm-up or their preparation for strength training or running. Here, all we're gonna do, opposite arm, opposite leg. You can go about 10 to 20 per side. Or go anywhere from 15 to 30 seconds. Okay? You're gonna rest a second, reset. On the second one, we're gonna go a little bit stronger, quicker, making sure I'm maintaining good balance and control. Alignment of the legs is good. I'm just creating a little bit of power as I drive down into the floor. Okay? Very good prep, specifically for running. Next thing we're going to do is pick up the intensity of that, a little bit more plyometric as we work on what's called the pop and float drill, which is an in-place skipping variation. So from here, showing you from the side, we'll do low level first and then pick up the intensity on the second effort. Same exact thing, but now I'm coming up into the air. It's a little more emphasis on that push off and propulsion motion. Okay, 10 to 15 repetitions, 15 to 30 seconds. Find what works for you. As we do this one a second time, we want a little bit more power and explosiveness. So now I'm looking at vertical height, actually coming up into the ceiling, which is a good segue into some of the low-level plyometrics we're gonna work on next. So now, quick transition, pop, float, trying to take more time up in the air. So as soon as you're hitting the ground, you're forcefully pushing down, becoming elastic, and then coming right back up. Okay. So now as we get into some of the low-level plyometrics, first one I want to work on is a very simple 4-square line hop. We're going to start this on 2 legs and then increase the intensity of the plyometrics as well. So if I wanted to, If you're at home, you can put a piece of tape on the floor. You can put a band, a couple bands. So see, I'm making this cross motion. We want a kind of 4 square setup. For the purpose of this video, I'm just gonna do it in space so you can see that. So this is a 4 square line hop. I'm gonna go around clockwise twice, counterclockwise twice. So starting on 2 feet. Okay, reverse. Okay. Okay, 2 times each way. As I get to the next one, now I'm gonna do that same thing, but single leg focus, a little bit harder, so really work on your balance and stability first before really trying to increase the speed. Okay, so same thing, I'll go clockwise, counterclockwise, and I'll do that 2 times. So it doesn't matter where you start. Just making sure you're going clockwise, counterclockwise. Same thing on the other side. Clockwise first, counterclockwise second, and then same thing, one more effort. Really trying to stay up on the toes. You may notice a difference from side to side, so if you do, it's always good to add an additional set on that weaker side. So for me, that left side felt a little bit weaker, a little harder to get off the floor to balance and stabilize, so I might do a little additional work on that side. On this next 2 drills to wrap up this dynamic warm-up, we're going to increase the intensity a little bit. So vertical jump and stick, a little bit higher. Instead of focusing more this low level plyometrics, more calf and ankle, lower leg area, we're gonna now add in knees, hips in this full body motion. Emphasis here is landing under control, so landing nice and softly as I come down, absorbing properly into the joints. Soft, quiet, absorb and reset. So I'm trying to really bend into ankles, knees, and hips to offset some of that load. So a lot of the muscles around the joints are withstanding and dissipating that force rather than pounding into the ground. Just going through 5 repetitions. We're just gonna do this 1 set through. Next one, a little bit harder, single leg vertical jumps. Now I've kind of paved the way for this harder single leg plyometric, but focusing still on jumping and landing and stability of the leg. So as I jump off 1, land on 1. Want to prevent losing balance or collapsing that knee inward. So nice stable foot, stable hip will help the alignment of that leg. Okay, the higher you jump, the harder. Start nice and easy. Increase the intensity as you feel better with this movement, which is a challenging movement once you try this on your own. Next up, going left side. Soft and quiet. Just like before, we got into the single leg line hops. If you notice a difference in power or stability on one side versus the other, you're going to complete an additional set on that weaker side. So that is your dynamic warm-up that will set us up properly as we get into the strength training portion. As we get into this first group of strength training exercises, we're gonna do 3 exercises and incorporate these as supersets or trisets. What that means is we're going to do the first exercise, which is piston squats. We're gonna do a second exercise, push-ups or eccentric push-ups. And our third set, which is a core exercise, the dead bug or bent legs lowering, we're gonna do exercise 1, exercise 2, exercise 3, rest if we need to, and then go back in from the beginning, okay? So doing these in sequence rather than one at a time. Okay, so first exercise, piston squats. And all of these, I think we focus on 2 to 3 sets of 10. That'd probably be a very good starting point. And for you, increasing or decreasing repetitions or sets as needed. Piston squats is a great exercise because we're not just working on lower body strength, but there's a power component to this. So I'm gonna sit down, whether I have a couch that's somewhat firm, a chair, something appropriate that I can sit back to comfortably, that's not too soft or too low. I'm going to sit slowly, drive, stand. So you can see that power component as I come up, drive through quads, hamstrings, glutes to end tall, and then I'm going to go in my next step. So as a piston, drive, stand, sit, repeat. Okay? I'm gonna go through 10 repetitions here. 4. Really trying to drive strong into the ground. It's okay if you're loud and forceful on this one. 8. 2 more. 9,
Last one, nice strong drive, knees always out, aligned with those toes. And I'm thinking as I come down, driving up. So I'm creating a little extra power down into the ground. Next exercise, going into our push-up. Push-up or eccentric push-up. So depending on where you are in terms of upper body strength, core strength and stability, you can decide what is the best variation for you. Easiest variation is our eccentric push-up. So if we can go from the top of our push-up, eccentric means we're lowering down only. So I'm gonna try to keep my elbows at about 45 degrees off the body. I'm gonna try to lower from 3 to 5 seconds. More if I need to make it harder, as the body just slowly comes into contact with the ground. So going 10 repetitions, slow, controlled. You'll notice as you get higher into these repetitions, you might start to go a little bit faster. Really try to prevent against that. If you are completely losing control and it turns into a stop at that point and then continue to complete the same amount of repetitions you did a second ago rather than going higher. So going about 10 repetitions. From there, if that version is too easy for you and you're comfortable doing full push-ups, we're just gonna do a full push-up here. So focusing on core, nice level position like a board, engaging the core, engaging the abs, trying to get the hips, the chest, and the nose to touch the ground at the same time. And then from here, going all the way back up into your push-up. But you can see my elbows are still about 45 degrees off my body. I wanna make sure I'm not throwing up the chicken wings here out to the side or really tucking in. I'm about 45 degrees as I go through 10 repetitions, okay? So those are the two variations, looking at upper body and then core strength and stability. Third exercise, specifically looking at core stability here. So we're trying to hold a nice neutral spine position as we move the arms and legs in this first variation, and I'll show you a slightly harder variation for the second one. So from here, we're gonna do the dead bug, completing about 10 repetitions per side. So if you come up with the legs into this 90 position, from the beginning, I want to take a nice deep exhale. Allow that rib cage to compress down. You just see the difference between rib flared and rib depressed. Squeeze the abs, hold that position. Arms in, legs up. Opposite arm, opposite leg. You can see these are stationary. These ones at the top never move, never change. And I'm alternating. Opposites move at the same time, so it's a nice coordinated motion. Great to work on that coordination for running with the opposite arm and leg moving. And at all times, I'm trying to keep that rib cage down and prevent my lower back from arching more than the position that it's in. It's okay if there's a slight arch of the lower back, that's natural. But as we go arm and leg, we want to make sure we're not going into that position where there's excessive arch at the lower back. Okay? 10 repetitions per side. From there, a slightly harder variation or progression on the dead bug is what's called bent legs lowering. Setup is the same exact way. Starting 90-90 here at the legs. Exhale. Rib cage down, squeeze the abs. A little bit easier to put your hands on the ground, harder to go up in the air. What I'm going to do here is slowly let the legs straighten away. The pelvis wants to tip with the legs. You're engaging the core, preventing that, and then coming back. Same purpose, preventing extension at the spine, so monitor that position. And nice deep breathing as you go through. Okay, higher you go, the easier. The lower you go, the harder. So you have this entire range to work with to really customize that to your ability level. A lot harder than your dead bug variation. So those are the first 3 exercises. We have piston squats, we have push-up or eccentric push-up, and then dead bug or bent legs lowering. What I would recommend is completing 2 to 3 sets of 10 repetitions. Feel free to add or decrease repetitions or sets as needed to fit your ability level. In this second group of exercises, we're gonna go through three exercises full body. We'll go through a lower body, an upper body, and then a core specific exercise. First one we're gonna do is a single leg reaching deadlift and also provide you that progression, which is a standing airplane. Single leg reaching deadlift is a very simple but challenging exercise. So what we're gonna do here is if we're on one leg, you can always recommend on this one, barefoot or in socks is awesome because you can really see how that foot is moving and how you're stabilizing throughout it. But small bend in the knee, hinging through the hips, getting that body just before parallel with the floor, drive through that glute and hamstring to come back up. So at all times I want to prevent this exercise from being a lower back exercise. It's hips specifically, glutes and hamstrings. So squeezing the abs, control as you hinge down, really trying to stabilize that foot in the ground and then come back up. Key thing to stay away from is rotating as you come up. Stay square with the floor. And all we're gonna do is 10 repetitions per side. Okay, some people like to let the arms hang, others around the hips or reaching in front, hence the name single leg reaching deadlift. As long as you're doing the movement through the hips and lower body, you can choose whichever variation you like. So let's do 10 per side. Seeing any difference from side to side as far as stability of the foot, hip, or balance. Okay, hinging at the hips. This is the hip hinge exercise with a single leg variation. Standing airplanes, if you feel like that exercise is very easy, we can go to standing airplanes, which now adds this rotational component a little bit harder, okay? So similar setup as the single leg deadlift, single leg reaching deadlift. I'm gonna put my hands around my hips on this one, or if I am next to a wall because I'm starting out, I'm losing balance, that could be fine as well with a little assistance. I'm gonna hinge not as far down as I did before. You can see I'm closer to about 45 degrees, good posture. I'm rotating around the hip joint. So my hip, my back toe, and my shoulders are moving like a unit as I rotate right around the hip joint, okay? Doing 10 repetitions. You can see the tendency of that foot to move and rock around, a lot harder to stabilize here as you go through. So just to show you from this angle here, hinging, about 45, rotating, both sides. Not going too far. What I would do early on this one, as you get through your repetitions, find the rotational range of motion that challenges you, but allows you to really hold and maintain your balance. You don't want to go too far and lose balance every single rotation. So same thing here. Some people call this the tippy twist. I like to call it the standing airplane. As you feel more confident with this one, you're going to increase the amount of rotation, but still isolating, moving that body as a unit and rotating around the hip joint. So that's your first exercise, single leg deadlift or standing airplanes. Second one, very simple, bent over T. Important on this one from a postural standpoint when it comes to running, nice upright position, shoulders back, good strength and endurance through the shoulders there in the scapular area. Hinge through the hips, back nice and flat. You can look in the mirror if you need to or have someone give you some feedback. From there, I'll let my arms hang without losing my posture. Keep my shoulder blades back, my back flat. I'm gonna just rotate my thumbs straight out to the side. So as I come up to the ceiling, my thumbs are pointing at the ceiling and I'm able to really squeeze and engage between the shoulder blades. Great exercise that works on posture, opening up through these anterior structures of the shoulders and the chest, and strengthening trapezius, rhomboids, those muscles on through the mid and upper back, okay? Going through 10 repetitions. Third exercise, we're gonna go down to the ground and go into a high plank, and I'll show you the progression for that, which is a high plank with shoulder taps. So high plank is very simple. Most people are getting into this traditional low plank position. High plank is just from the hands. So we're gonna try to hold this for anywhere from 30 to 60 seconds. Kind of the one exercise we're doing for time in this set. A little bit harder to bring the feet together, a little easier to go wider. It's a more stable base. Hands are under the shoulders, and I'm really pushing away from the ground. As I get into that position, I want to really focus on engaging, pulling the rib cage down, quads, glutes, hamstrings, creating tension throughout the lower body to hold me strong. Rib cage down, head and neck tucked back, tension in the legs, glutes, holding for 30 to 60 seconds. Your nose will start to get shaky if you're really holding nice and stiff in this position. And we're gonna hold for 30 to 60 seconds, depending on what works and challenges you. From there, to make this a little harder, I recommend widening the feet just a little bit when you start to add the shoulder taps. So feet are a little bit wider, hips are down, same setup position. Exhale, rib cage down, legs locked out and creating some stiffness. From here, I'm gonna tap opposite shoulder. Slower you go, the harder. You can have a stopwatch or a phone right underneath you looking at time. 30 to 60 seconds. So just to see that one from the front here so you can see as far as how we're trying to prevent rotation. As we lift, one point of contact, so lift an arm, tendency is to shift like this. Hips down, core engaged, legs engaged. Try to really work on maintaining this nice level position, gauging the core and preventing that rotation. Same thing, 30 to 60 seconds per side. So those are the three exercises. We have that single leg hip hinge, whether you're doing the deadlift or the airplane. We have a bent over T, and then we have a high plank or a high plank with shoulder taps. Doing anywhere from 2 to 3 sets of these exercises, 10 repetitions or 30 to 60 seconds on your core variation. In this third and final group of exercises, we're gonna do 3 things. We're gonna do a triplanar lunge, moving in 3 planes of motion. We're gonna do a tricep press up or eccentric tricep press up, depending on where you are when it comes to arm and core strength. And our third one will be a rotational plank, okay? So a little bit different as far as these movements moving in different planes of motion. Okay, so our first one, triplanar lunge, try 3 planes. We're gonna go forward, lateral, and then transverse. So making sure you have plenty of room around you on the side you're stepping on. Forward lunge, traditional here, stepping forward, sinking down. Knee doesn't have to touch the ground. Stop at the point where the thigh is just before parallel. Lateral, sit back into the hip, butt back, knee over the shoelaces. Step back up. Transverse, a little bit harder. Step out to the side a little bit. We don't want to step directly behind, out to the side, turn that toe, and then you're just going to shift your weight, turn, rotate the shoulders, keep that front foot fixed. A lot of times people let that foot slide with them, okay? So that's the triplanar lunge. We're just gonna go through 5 repetitions each way, each leg. 2. Taking your time, no rush, really focusing on this multi-directional mobility and strength. Great exercise for the hips. From a flexibility and mobility standpoint, balance, stability. And especially as you get higher up in your mileage, it's great to move in multiple planes of motion since running is always so predictable, right? Running forward in that same movement pattern. Okay, so that's my right side. Left side. Nice and low. You might notice lateral squat or transverse lunge. One side versus the other side's a little tighter. If you notice that, feel free. Add additional reps into that plane of motion. 3. Okay, really focusing on your transverse lunge, which can get a little bit tricky, so be patient with that one. But really feel some stretching throughout the adductors and these muscles of the inner thigh as you go into lateral and then go into transverse, okay? First exercise right there. About 5 repetitions. You can start with 3. You can work up to 10 if you need to. Very slow exercise, doing 3 different planes of motion there, so find what works for you. Second exercise, we're gonna go into the tricep. We're gonna do eccentric first, tricep press up, and then go into the full tricep press up. A challenging exercise. We're looking at holding a plank position, a lot of core strength and stability here, and then arm, or specifically tricep strength as we push away. Kind of similar to if you were using a cable or a dumbbell to do a tricep extension, okay? So what we're gonna do here is a eccentric version first. What I like to do is set up in a plank position here. I just set the arms up. See my knees are down on the ground, elbows are under shoulders, hands are out in front because that's the position you wanna end in, which means we wanna get there first, and then we're gonna come up. You can stay down on the knees if you need to. If that's challenging for you in terms of strength, stay at the knees, which is the shorter lever. Or from here, keep the hands in place, go to the feet, lower down 3 to 5 seconds. So looking at that eccentric arm strength, see I drop my knees down, I'm gonna set up again, lower, down, okay? So for this one, going through 10 repetitions, taking your time. Don't let your elbows flail out to the side. Keep the elbows down in line with the shoulder and just work on the quality of that control. Core is engaged, body's level, triceps, elbows doing all the work. Okay, 10 repetitions. Next one, full tricep press up, is doing that same exact thing, but we're doing up and down. Okay, so you can do this from the knees or do this in the full plank position. I definitely recommend trying to get to that full plank as soon as possible, whether it's eccentric or the full tricep press up, because that's where again a lot more challenging, but a better way to really work on core engagement, because we want that to carry over to most of our exercises if possible. It provides a little more bang for your buck. From here, I'm going to start down at the bottom. I'm just going to think front plank. Engage the core, lock the legs, head and neck back, push away, lower down, push away, lower down. And depending on your level of arm strength, might be a little bit tricky. So feel free to go eccentric first, set yourself back up at the top, and lower down to build that kind of that base, that prerequisite strength to get to this full tricep press up, okay? Doing 10 repetitions of that one. Third exercise, final exercise in the strength training portion, is a rotational plank. So I'm going to show you both a couple different directions here so you can see this fully. Body doesn't move, right? Body stays fixed, kind of like standing airplane we did earlier. Shoulders move and the feet kind of pivot to keep the body in a proper position. So on this side, on this exercise, starting in a side plank, but I'm going to start with the feet staggered. The feet always move comfortably if you're in the right positions. That top leg is always the forward leg, bottom leg is always the back leg, okay? So I'm going to come up into a side plank, into the staggered position. Now from here, I'm using my shoulder joint, using my arm on the ground here. I'm just moving my body throughout that rotational range of motion, which is only the shoulder, because I'm still just holding this plank position here. Nothing is changing with the plank. My feet are coming into contact with the ground a little bit differently as I just roll from the outside, inside of the shoe to the toes, roll to the other side. But I always want to make sure, I always tell people, stop in that front plank position for a second, catch yourself. I don't want you to go and use momentum to rock side to side. I want you to slow down and control that motion. This one will just go 5 per side. Okay. So to show you there from the straight on view, looking at my entire body, if I'm here, let's do the other way for you. Let's go here, elbow on the ground, feet stagger so you can see that foot position. Now watch, the body stays connected. Plank, side plank. Moves as a unit. Everything together, shoulder and feet are the only things that are actually changing the position. And then we're just going to go through 5 per side. Okay? So those are the 3 strength training exercises. Going through your triplanar lunge, your tricep press up or eccentric tricep press up, and then your rotational plank. I usually say 5 on your triplanar lunge, 10 on your tricep press up, and then going 5 here on the rotational planks. All right, so if you made it this far, you've just completed the strength training portion, need some time here to cool down, let that heart rate come back down, and then work on some basic flexibility to help unwind from those challenging strength training exercises we did a second ago. So going to add a cool down and a kind of stretching mobility routine at the end. Only 5 things to get through, okay, but specific to our workout today. First one is overhead tricep and lat stretch. All you're gonna do for this one is reach one arm up, try to touch the top corner of your shoulder blade, reach the other arm up and over, and then just try to pull that arm across the body. As I get into that position, I want to, because for me, I'm a little tight in the shoulders here, pulls my head forward. I'm gonna try to gaze up to help pull that arm further into extension. I'm just gonna hold this position for about 20 to 30 seconds. Okay, stretching through tricep, lats. Second one, or other side, coming up, top corner of the shoulder blade, coming up and over, pulling that arm across the body, and then eyes up to increase the stretch. Okay, 20 to 30 second hold. Good tricep and lat stretch, especially from some of those plank variations and the tricep press up we did as one of the last exercises. Okay, from there, we're gonna look at scalenes and upper traps. So kind of opposite here. We're going to now bring the arm behind the back. You can see as I do that, I'm gonna use my left hand to pull my right shoulder a little bit lower. I'm depressing the shoulder. With that lower side, I'm gonna tilt away there. So I'm creating this length throughout the scalenes and then the upper trapezius as I tilt the head away. Okay, being on the hands a lot of times with some of these upper body and core variations, you create a lot of tension up in the shoulder and the neck. So just help open up from there. Good one, especially if you're working at a desk all day. Hand comes behind the back. I'm gonna hold, pull, right hand pulls the left, and I'm tilting away. Okay, 20 to 30 seconds per side. Nice deep breathing as you go through these. But those are 2 good upper body stretches to really wind down from our program. Next up, couch stretch. Looking at quad hip flexor, flexibility, getting down into this position where we're half kneeling, lunge position, back knee is bent, foot is up on the bench or a stair or couch or chair, whatever you have at home. Now from here, gauge the core, pull the ribs down, and just gonna shift some of your weight forward. As I do that, it's a big stretch to the front of this thigh, hip flexor, quad. I'm just gonna lunge right into that to increase the stretch. Okay, 30 to 60 seconds, holding that one. And I can switch out of that position as comfortably as you can. It's a tough position. I'm gonna throw the back foot up, shoelaces right on the bench. Rib cage down, shifting my hips forward. Okay, but trying to stay tall. You might notice if you're tight here, it's pulling you forward into this position. Try to, before you lunge forward, get yourself up tall. Use that front leg to prop yourself up. That alone could increase the stretch at the hip flexor and the quad. 20 to 30 seconds per side. Next up, standing hip external rotation. Couple different ways we can do this. If you're next to a wall or if you had a bench or end of the couch, we're just going to cross the ankle and leg right across the other leg there, so my ankle is above my knee. And I'm just gonna sit down comfortably. As I get in that position, I like to assist and push that knee down just slightly. I'm not trying to force it because I don't want my whole body to twist, but I'm just holding that rotated position, stretch through glute and hip rotators, going into hip external rotation. Just to see that from the front here, I'll show you my left side, ankle here, sitting down, and just slight pressure coming out. Again, the lower you sit, the more stretch you should feel, so you need to find what works for you, but about 20 to 30 seconds per side. Okay, last one. One of the biggest things I like to finish with, crocodile breathing. Diaphragmatic breathing, face down on the ground, and trying to, as you inhale, really push that belly into the floor and allow the body to expand up and away. Okay, really great way to unwind after a run session, a strength session, or if you are someone that works on meditation, mindfulness, prayer, it's a good position to get into. So here, crocodile breathing. My hands, you can see, are overlapped, and I'm going to put my forehead right on my hand, so I have space between my face, my mouth, and the floor. I'm not face down completely. I have a little gap there. From here, what I'm going to do is breathe in through the nose, exhale out through the mouth as long as I can, and I'm trying to feel my belly button area push into the ground to really elevate my hips, lower back, and core area away from the floor. So that's what we want to feel moving as we do this. We don't want to feel a lot of movement around the shoulders. There's really no limit to being in that position. I usually recommend a minimum of 60 seconds, and depending on where the heart rate is and how much you're breathing after that workout, you might need a little longer to fully wind down from that. But get to the point where you're nice and relaxed, you're breathing properly, and you don't feel like you're labored or you're really stiff to breathe. Okay? So anywhere from 1 minute to 5 minutes in that position, but will be a very good final drill to unwind after your strength training.